Hello, my name is Theodore Brigham Conklin IV. People call me Teddy. But that is not important. What's important is that I have things to share, things that touch deep, that touch many, and may shock you and may disturb you. What I'm trying to get at is that you've seen the title of the video, and there is one word that I'm trying to convey is real, and that word is a V word that human beings laugh at now. That word is vampire. When I said that, you are probably thinking of a moody overactor in a black satin cape, or else Edward Cullen sparkling in the sun and kissing Bella Swan, or else Lestat rocking out and having sex with Akasha, or maybe Blade kicking ass and taking names. No, that's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is the truth, which I discovered some years ago. And looking back on it now, I wish I hadn't. It was Halloween night, 2009, and I had been in the alley drinking a Diet Pepsi, and I had earlier been looking at a book called The Vampire Book by J. Gordon Melton, and I just thought, because it was an interesting night, I thought I might try and see if they're real. And so I said out loud what they say on ghost hunter shows when they want ghosts to come out, which is something along the lines of, I wish you to come out, I mean you no harm, I just want to see if you exist. And over the next few minutes, I saw people that I know were not ordinary. One of them was a man expensively dressed. His left ear was pierced. He had dead black, great white shark eyes, a shaved head, and taloned hands. When I saw and made eye contact with him, he made a kind of screeching noise and darted behind a wall. I never saw him again. Then I had seen this woman that, had the same kind of eyes. She was blonde. She had pale white marble skin. She had taloned hands, and she had these 2 rows of yellow teeth that both rows had sharp fangs, and she didn't smile or pretend to or act if she was pretending. She was breathing, and I just simply ran from my life and locked the door when I got back to my apartment. No one believed my story, and ever since then I have been digging up information, and what I've found is very, very, very disturbing. Bram Stoker may have introduced us to the idea of vampires in literature, but the legend of the vampire goes back 6,000 to 7,000 years with the birth of civilization. And I kept asking myself, if they're not real, how is it that all these cultures that had nothing to do with one another over the past 6,000 or 7,000 years, how did they end up all telling the same kind of story? I looked into that. And I figured out that they have always been here. But they're not supernatural creatures. But they're creatures that we don't yet understand. It's not totally beyond our understanding. We just choose not to understand it because we don't think it exists. We all simplify because we can't believe. We were all raised to doubt and debunk. We think everything is science fiction when around us we see stuff like cell phones. We punch in a few numbers and immediately we can talk to somebody in China when we're in America. Or we can talk to somebody in America when we're in China. And that's true science fiction. Science fiction come true. I have deduced that vampires, what they really are, is the product of an ancient supervirus, an ancient contagion that was birthed during with the Sumerians, but it was really born on Earth possibly 3 to 4.6 billion years ago. So in a sense, vampires as a genetic sequence have been around since before even the dinosaurs and before us. What I've deduced is that there are 7 originals. Not 7 originals, but there's one original vampire. But there are 13 masters that are the heads of the vampire society. 7 of the old world, what we know today as Europe and Asia and Africa. And 6 of the new world, which is the American colonies, North America, South America, Haiti, Malaysia, the Malaysian Islands, and Australia. And I haven't deduced all their names, but anybody who's watching this and knows much about vampires knows that the lore says very, very little about the first vampires. And you also know that people have tried to tie it to many other historical and mythological figures, including Judas, Lilith, Cain, Satan, but the truth is more enigmatic and more hard to swallow. What I've deduced is that the first vampire was created by a combination of this dormant strain of the contagion from before us that was dormant in our bodies, but was birthed by one of the earliest strains of cancer, because vampires, I've deduced, have a very similar genetic code and viral code to cancer and cancer cells. And the first must have died, but was brought back to life by this combination inside his dormant body that was basically killed, but then brought back by the birth of this virus inside the body. And thus the first vampire, who we know, and many historians and professors would know of Sumerian and Mesopotamian culture, would know him as Nergal, the Sumerian god of the underworld, who married the goddess Irkalla, who is his queen. And their second in command their right-hand man, Utaku. I don't know much about him, but I've deduced that he is their guard, their guardian, their vampire guardian. And Utaku has his own private security force, what in the myths is known as the Seven Demons, which he commanded. Well, they must have spread their virus like a plague through the Fertile Crescent, and then to the Arabian Peninsula, and then further to Africa. They managed to kill off a bunch of their own kind, the unclean, as they would probably say, the inconsequential. But some escaped, and those that escaped ended up proving themselves to be worthy of their heritage, of their genetic heritage. And those would include Sekhmet of Africa, who was interpreted by the Egyptians as the goddess of war, fire, and plague, and sometimes even the goddess of love. If you believe in the legends, the Egyptians were worshipping the kings and queens of the country rather than the gods themselves. The gods grew angry and sent down one of their gods, Sekhmet, and Sekhmet laid waste to the land of Egypt, drinking blood and ripping out men's hearts, as it says in the Book of Set. The next after her was Lamia, a Libyan queen who traveled to Greece, and Zeus was very enamored with her, had an affair with her, and Hera got angry and turned her into a blood-sucking, child-eating demon. Of course, I don't directly believe in any of the legends, except for the fact that these were vampires, and they influenced the cultures very much. After Lamia, there was Kali. Who, for you Indiana Jones fans, know her as the goddess of death and destruction in Hindu mythology, but also Kali Ma, if you really directly believe in the Indiana Jones bullshit. But then came Jiang Shi of China during the Qing dynasty, the youngest of the Old World masters. With the New World, we have Camazotz, who was interpreted as the Mayan god of caves, but also blood drinking. And after that, for North America, the major part of North America, we have Jumlin of the Lakota Sioux and Blackfoot legends. Then, after that, we have Lobishomen of South America. Then there is Gedi of Haiti, Talamar of Australia, and Bajang of Malaysia. You must understand that they have always been here, but the problem for them and for us, mostly us, was Camazotz, who he was the first of the New World masters, but he was a rogue and turned his back on both the New World and the Old World vampires, and ruled solemn in Central America over the Mayans. And I have a theory that's not substantiated